diggity.
Boom diggity. Morning.
The glasses, they just get me every time, dude.
Dude, you just...
We had a late start.
Yep.
It's 7:15. Normally we're out here at, 6:45 lately. It's
Ish.
about where the time is. We woke up, Scotty went to make some coffee, and, well, we've done this before. We ran out of water.
Yep.
Because we obviously are bad at checking how much water we have.
Yep.
But what happened was I also was out of these packets that we mix with our water.
Yep.
So we had to go to the store and just get regular. I guess the process to fixing it was no different.
No. We're missing a vital piece. You know, we need to get a constant flow of distilled water going through that thing. Like, we need to get like a...
You can hook them up.
Oh yeah,
It wouldn't be distilled. You just hook it up to like a soft water.
Got it.
At our house, our water actually. You know what?
Our water probably would work.
We should test our water.
Yeah.
Because we have that whole little fancy machine.
Yeah.
Our water might even be ideal.
It might be.
We might be wasting money.
It's perfect, like pH and everything.
I'd have to see. It's just like it's the perfect pH for the machine.
So I will take a note. Let's do that.
For like corrosion.
Do you have the checking strips?
I do not have the pH checking strips handy now.
I was gonna say we should check that today.
I wonder if that machine will tell us, or if it's different for every. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if it's one set setting, or like we have to test it to see what ours is at.
It's one set thing.
Because we might be able to look on there and see what it runs.
Let's do this.
People are like, wait, what's up with this podcast? What do they talk about? We talk about pH levels in water, in coffee, mostly coffee, honestly. While I'm watching the steam fall off my coffee right now, and it's turning me on. I feel aroused right now.
She's a good one. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I tried making a cappuccino this morning, which is less milk, more froth. Well, I just about set off a volcano. I think that the cup I use might be too big for a cappuccino because you put too little milk in there and the wand can't even really reach, and so the wand, it's just a problem. So I think if you make a cappuccino, you gotta waste some milk. You just use regular amount of milk, and then you don't use all your milk, but you extra froth.
Something like that, along those lines. I had a question for you.
I have an answer for you.
Is Twister considered a board game?
Yes.
How? There's no board.
Yeah, there's.
Where?
The thing you twist.
That's a little spinny thing. A board
On a
game
board.
is you play with a board game.
You do play with that part of the board.
I don't know. I wouldn't consider it a
It's
board
a
game.
board game that has an external competition.
Oh.
Yep.
No.
Twister's a board game. It actually comes in a board game set as well.
Let's say this.
And then you take out the Twister and the board.
So Battleship board game?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no board.
There is no board.
There's no board.
What?
Battleship's like just a game.
I just like
What a great game, by the way.
True.
But it's definitely just a game. You know what I always thought they should do? They should make like a Jumanji version of Battleship.
They do, I think. They have like 40 different. Did you know that Jumanji has like 40 different games?
No. Jumanji the movie.
I know.
They should make a movie about how a Battleship game came to life.
Got it. I'm pretty sure that exists too.
No. I don't think so.
I want to say it exists.
I don't think so. Wait, Jumanji has real games?
Mhm.
I mean, that'd be really dumb of them not to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a.
But I don't know. Is it fun though if none of the cool things actually happen? You know,
It'd be cool if it made noises and stuff. I don't think it does that though.
it just sounds very underwhelming.
It's probably just like, well, that sucked.
That's one of my favorite films of all time.
The original or the new ones?
The original.
With
Of
Robin
course
Williams.
not. The new ones are good, but
You mean The Rock running through the forest?
yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's my favorite film. I like it. Kevin Hart.
Nick Jonas.
Yeah, no, I like the original a lot. Like that's like my childhood. That film came out when I was a little baby.
And Kirsten Dunst was just young and
To be honest with you, I don't know
Not
who Kirsten Dunst is.
like one from Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, she's the tiny. Oh
She's
my
the
god,
girl.
facts. That's a good point. She's kind of hot.
I think that was her first movie.
She's pretty hot.
She's like 13.
No, not in the movie. In Spider-Man.
Oh,
Jesus.
you set yourself up for that one.
I mean,
okay.
in my defense, I actually could say that because when she was 13, I was probably 10 or 7
It's probably-
or 5.
Yeah, you're probably 5.
So or 3 maybe.
You're probably very young.
So take it back.
No. You're leaving tomorrow.
I go to California.
Excited?
I haven't been there. Okay, well, that's a stretch. I've been to California often.
Mhm.
I haven't been to California in a while, though. For me, I haven't been to California since my brother's wedding, which was September. So 2 months, way too long. But I haven't been to Los Angeles since March of 2021. Which is quite a while. And I honestly, I don't want to say it. but I miss it.
What's the first thing you're gonna do when you get to Cali?
Go to LA.
I mean,
What's
like,
the first thing I'm gonna do in LA?
yeah.
I can't say. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, dude. Get some coffee, probably. Actually, I plan on getting there at roughly 11:30 in the morning,
Okay.
which is still time for coffee.
Okay.
I'll get some coffee. Now, I used to go to Bean in LA, and that's not there anymore, so that's just saddening. God, it just sounds so delightful right now. I don't know, man. Just go explore. I just miss I want to go to Westlake, where I used to live. I want to go to Malibu. I love Malibu. I've been like the fact that I haven't been to Malibu in that long is a problem. Especially like before I moved out to Westlake, my dad lived in Simi Valley, which is like a neighboring city, and we'd drive up for like the weekend, and like all we would do is just go to Malibu every day. We wake up, like, what are we doing today? And we all kind of thought it was funny because we knew what we were doing. We were just gonna go drive around Malibu like we always do. So like Malibu is a big place in my heart, and I haven't been in far too long.
Here we go.
Far too long.
Right on.
What's your favorite place in California?
In San Clemente.
Yeah,
San Clemente.
I'll also be there on Saturday.
Oh, that is my favorite place. I would argue it's my top 3 favorite places in the world.
You like why San Clemente?
It's just the fact that it is. I don't know, man. You go to San Clemente and it's a beach town, but it's got kind of like that Spanish vibe to it. But it's so relaxed. It's so peaceful. The beaches, they have people there, but it's so weird. There's people on the beach, but it almost seems quiet,
Huh?
which is weird.
It's a big surf town.
It's a
Like
big
huge
surf town. The waves are always nice. I think that's probably a big reason I love it. But no, man, it's just such a. You go there and there's just a vibe. I just love the vibe.
San Clemente has good vibes.
Yeah.
I also like Dana Point.
Same point.
See, I think in my mind, San Clemente is great.
Yeah.
San Clemente is very like different than all the other places.
It is.
As you go north, you go through Dana Point, and then it turns into Laguna, and then it turns into New. So for me, like that part, I can feel my like energy, like my excitement rising as I go north.
Mhm.
I do like San Clemente a lot. Connor's from San Clemente. You probably didn't know that. Connor in our group chat. He's lived in San Clemente like most of his life.
Is he?
But yeah, dude, San Clemente's cool. I just have like, it's just again, it's one of those surf towns. A little slow for me.
Ah.
It's just a little too relaxed. Like if I lived there, I would just surf all day. I wouldn't work.
Yeah.
There's no way. What am I gonna work?
Yeah.
I'd go drink beer.
Yeah, you definitely go there to surf and chill.
Yeah. So I don't know about living there, but I definitely agree with visiting there.
Yeah.
I think Laguna's like this little Laguna gives me like, it's the only place in California that reminds me of like south of France in a way. It's like the whole city's built on the other side of the mountain, kind of like Malibu, right? Like it's just this little was like PCH, little house, big houses, little neighborhoods, little cute stores, ocean. Ocean's like clear water, reef kind of, rock sticking through the water. So it gives me the most European vibes in California, and that's why I feel like I like it.
You like Torrey Pines area?
I like Torrey Pines, but I would never like this.
I can't spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, when you're there,
For a day.
There's just it ruins the experience by the end of the day. Like it slowly gets boring, which is weird.
I feel like in this podcast we're being a little niche. Of like half the people watching are like, the fuck is
Yeah,
Torrey
we should probably go
Pines?
into somewhere.
What is a Torrey Pines? I don't know. We just like I'm a California boy. Scotty, he's been. He's attended before. This is a good one.
Okay.
I want to talk about parenting our future children. Say that like we're gonna have kids. Ours, Scotty. Our separately future children, and also the concept that I love talking about, where like sometimes I get the feeling that parents now, when I watch them parent, lack the perspective to put themselves back in their shoes when they were a kid.
Mhm.
I see a lot of parents parent from the mentality that like they were never kids.
Mhm.
But let's start. How will you parent your children, Scotty? What are some things you think about in your day-to-day, like that you've learned already at this age, and you're like, I will implement this into my child? And obviously this is going to be a very opinionated subject, because parenting is the most fucking opinionated topic in the world. I am not looking forward to being a parent for that reason, because every parent thinks that their way of parenting is the fucking way, and that's just not true at all.
100%. I'm gonna parent my kids a lot how my parents parented me,
It's typical.
which is very strict but loving, but giving direction, giving advice, but letting them fail.
Okay.
You know, and I think I'm gonna actually double down on it a lot more than my parents did with me, is really letting my kids fail.
Yeah.
Really, like, you know, setting them up and making sure that they're okay and make sure that they're safe, but never giving them that leash of saying like, okay, go do your thing, like we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not how it's gonna happen, because I think too many kids are, even if they don't see it, they're not very independent.
Okay.
And they're not, you know, go-getters, they're not self-drivers, they're still like given a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you need to learn very, very young how to hustle and grind and, you know, work for what you want and work for happiness and work for everything, like, and just not just be handed like everything. And then teaching people, like, I want to teach my kids emotional stability, where it's like not getting your emotions attached to things very young. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn how to teach that and like drive that in, where it's they don't make emotional choices, they make real life logical choices.
They use their brain, not their heart, to think.
Exactly. I think that's a big one to put into kids.
Which is a really good thing to just teach the next generation, because I feel like that's where our this generation and maybe above us lacks that very hard.
Exactly.
Which is why people are so easily controlled these days, because you just got to play with their heartstrings and they're your bitch.
Yeah.
No one thinks with their head anymore; they think with their heart.
Exactly.
Which is also weird, because we're living in this parallel world where compassion is more important than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And mental health is more, and it's like these weird, they clash, like, because those things are important.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we talked about it in some of the podcasts where it's like being a man and all these things, like all these things are intertwined, where it's like heart and brain kind of just fighting.
Yep.
And I feel like we do need to, I think it would be important to teach our kids like where that separation lies, because they exist separately for a reason.
Exactly.
No, I think that's good. I think anytime you're handing a child something, you're taking one step back. And I'm not saying you're gonna spoil your kids in some regard, right? Like every person wants to spoil their kids, quote unquote. But that word is used so loosely, because what are we spoiling them for? For Christmas? Sure. For a holiday, do whatever you want.
Go for it.
But just understand that every time you give your child something, or you allow them a safety net, it's going to build a subconscious in their mind that is now reliant on it. And so it's like, I always say the greatest thing my parents ever did was like, make me work for my things. If I want an Xbox, I can't just go ask my mom for an Xbox on a Tuesday. It's like, how much money do I have? How much do I need? And go buy an Xbox.
Exactly.
And then it's cool. I remember when I was young, and I don't know if this is the way, but like my parents would incentivize me. Like, all right, tell you what, you want this? You work for this much and I'll match it or something. In certain circumstances, to kind of show you that, like, I think what it does, it like rewires your brain to figure out different solutions to getting what you want.
Exactly.
And so it's like, all right, she's presenting me with this offer. There's some sort of incentive, and I'm going to work off that incentive. It's going to motivate me to bring up this amount of capital. I'm a little kid. Mom, I'm going to raise capital for this Xbox. No,
I'm
but it's
looking
like,
for an investor. Do you have a deck?
That's actually be so smart. We should make our kids
Just make them
pitch us on anything they want.
We have a room in our house. I love how we keep calling it us.
Yes, no, that's you. We have a room in our house.
But it's like, have a room in our house. It's like there's like a bunch, like 2 or 3 seats, and they have to walk in and do a Shark Tank pitch. Like, Joey's here today trying to get an Xbox. Like,
and then now you have to give us a real damn good reason of why you need an Xbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
we're sitting there, it's like dun dun. And the door opens up, and it's just like, hello, Dad. I'm asking for 3%.
I'm asking for $300 at 0% equity.
And I will do chores for a month.
It is my Xbox, not yours at all, even though you fronted up all the money.
I like this guy. He reminds me of me.
I used to do this when I was a kid. Yeah, I like this. No, it is funny though too, because like you actually. By the way, I'm diving into this whole thing. Like you could take equity. Your kid could provide. I'm looking for a $250 investment for 10% equity. Like, what does that 10% get me? Well, you can have revoking rights. You can take it away from me still. Or
if it's Xbox and stuff like that, just be like, I plan on becoming a professional gamer, and in the next 4 years, I will return your money. And
I will then support the family and buy us a mansion in the hills.
Exactly.
That's like kids these days, realistically.
That's it. That's a real thing, man.
Parenting kids. I'm trying to think of what are other good things that I've thought about. I guess that is I will use my second topic to answer the first question. Is I will parent my kids with the perspective of myself remembering my childhood. Like, I will try to understand the things I felt as a kid. I get really frustrated to see parents who are so strict on their kids. And I understand the psychology behind it, but it just sucks to see that like a parent who probably, like, let's say they grew up in fucking Santa Cruz in the 70s, like they were fucking around,
Yeah.
and then they don't let their kid go to their friend's house past 9 p.m.
Yeah.
They overprotect their kid and tell them if they smoke weed, they're gonna fucking beat their ass.
Exactly.
It's like, again, I'm exaggerating here, but it's like, do you not remember your childhood? Like, how are you parenting on that premise when you turned out, okay, let's just hypothetically say this person turned out great, and you were allowed the freedom to make those mistakes as a kid?
100%. And I think it really comes down to safety, and it really comes down to parents trying to protect. But I think you can overprotect to the point where it's a negative, and
Oh my God.
the return is not very good. It's just you push so hard to make sure your kid's not doing these things that the anarchy builds, and it's like, I'm gonna do these things.
Yep.
Like, even if they don't want to do it, they're still gonna do it just because they're like, you're saying I can't do it, I'm gonna do it. Like, and so I think there's a very fine line to walk there, where it's being a friend but being a parent,
Exactly.
and being strict but being loving and accepting.
I just don't know what is strict. Like, what are we entailing with strict? I don't see a world where strictness is ever necessary, because the word strict implies harsher than normal guidelines.
No, I think strict in a sense of there are set rules that you don't cross. So if your rule, because it's building up that, because there needs to be some kind of boundary. Like, you can't just let your kid run free. So
No,
it's like,
of course.
So like a strictness could be like, all right, you are home at 9 p.m. every night.
Okay.
Unless you call and you ask for permission, you are home at 9 p.m. every night. And if you are not home by 9 p.m., we're gonna have issues.
Let's say you got a 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm just using an example.
Okay.
She's fragile.
Okay.
She's more of a liability. No, I'm saying for your scenario, not
Okay.
like 9 p.m. That makes sense.
Okay.
I just think those strictness, like, rules and strictness are different. I think there's rules, and then there's being strict, having strict rules set in play. I think any parent's gonna have some sort of guidelines for their kid, not let them run free.
But yeah, but that's strict. You're strict on your rules, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You're
I see what you're
strict.
saying.
You can't, like, it's not a loose rule.
When you say strict, I just think of strict parenting, which I think never turns out.
No, and
All the kids I knew growing up with strict parenting were the shittiest kids.
Yeah, I don't think it's like. I think what you're thinking about is like more aggressive,
Correct.
controlling. I think
Yeah.
is more of a word for it.
It's just the over attempt to control your kid when
Exactly.
you actually don't have the control. You're hoping that they think you have the control.
Exactly.
They're hoping they believe they're under control. What happens is kids find out that their parents can't actually. Like, I remember it was like when you're young, right? Like, let's say your parent doesn't want you like banging, right? We're gonna use banging for this example. They don't want you having sex, right? It's irresponsible.
Raw dogging.
They don't want you to be a grandparent.
Yep.
There's massive repercussions to it. You're not mature enough. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
Respectful, I get it.
Mhm.
Now, what the fuck are you gonna do if you imply rules to keep your kid from doing that rather than values?
Mhm.
Like, what do you think's a smarter tactic there? To implement the values and the logic behind why it's a bad idea and why it requires maturity, or to implement rules when your kid can literally do it whenever they want?
I think it comes back to what we talk about a lot on here, and what my biggest realization has been over the last year is you have to have killer communication. Like, in every aspect of the word, in every part of your life, communication is just going to be the name of the game.
I
Where it's
agree.
like, and being and openly communicating, where it's like, hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing wrong with this. There is nothing wrong with you asking me questions.
Yeah.
I know it's an embarrassing topic, and we can sit here and we can laugh about it. Like,
Mhm.
I want you to tell me what's going on, if you want to tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And just know that I'm and just be like, no, like, I was a kid once. I know kids.
Yeah, relate
I know
to
people,
them.
Yeah, I know people. Like, you're not any different than anybody else growing up. I know what's going on in your head. Talk to me about it. Understand that this is a safe place, and setting up that place where it's like, this is a safe place to talk.
Yeah.
Like, when we're here, when you're here, your family, Olive Garden. like when you're here, there's no judgment. You can say whatever you want. It doesn't leave the room.
Yeah.
And I think having that safety net, and I think a lot of parents are scared to have those conversations with their kids because they don't want to hear what's going on. And it's like, no, if they're asking a question, it's obviously on their mind and it's taking up mental bandwidth, and you're not doing your job as a parent if you're not there to listen.
I agree.
And so I think that's going to be my biggest thing, is being a very, very big listener.
Yeah.
And trying to relate and trying to help, and just because I think kids just need a lot of times they don't even want the advice. They just want their parents to they itch at it to kind of like hint what they're doing.
They want their parents to know.
Exactly, but they don't want to just come out and say it. And it's
Yeah.
like, I want my kid to be able to just go like, Dad, I want to have sex with
Yeah.
somebody. I'm like, okay,
With somebody.
let's talk.
I don't know
about it.
who,
I
but
don't know
someone,
I
Dad.
wanna yeah. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, who is she? Like, that's
Yeah.
like, let's talk about it.
100%. Now you can have a mature conversation.
Exactly.
And your kid understands. There's the relatability factor there. I think that's another thing that you said that was important was when kids are young and their parents put in these guidelines, the relatability factor is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Kids don't relate to their parents anymore because they probably feel the frustration that their parents were never kids. They're like that's probably a thought that I'm sure I've had in my life.
Same.
Like, were you never a kid? Like,
Yeah.
like why are you? It's just such a weird. There's such a disconnect sometimes between the kid and the adult. When in reality, like, the kid will be the adult one day and the adult was the kid.
Yep.
It's like there is actually not that much disconnect. They're just at different points in their lives.
Yep.
But what happens is it feels as if the kid and the adult don't understand each other at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you guys understand each other more than you think. I actually say the parent understands the kid more than the kid understands the parent.
Yeah.
And the kid's not really trying to understand the parent. The kid's trying to be understood.
Do you remember that day where you were kind of like, I'm an adult? Do you?
Yeah, I was 16.
Yeah. Like, I think I remember like the first time I ever had like a really mature conversation with my dad, and I was like, did something just change? Like, I was like, it was a weird feeling, but I was like, I have respect. Like, it was weird. It was just,
He gave me some respect.
yeah. I was like, huh. Like, it's a weird thing when you're like, I can call you Mark, and he's like, no, you can't. Like, no, I can't.
You call me dad.
Yeah, and it's like, I just remember that so vividly, being like, wow, there's the switch.
Yeah.
But I'm still a kid, still feel like it, but
I'm kind of an adult.
I'm kind of an adult. Yeah.
I might actually not be a kid anymore. I don't
Yeah.
know. No, I think I remember when I was like, it was like the last time I had. It was when I realized I no longer had reliance on my parents,
Mhm.
and it was like I tell a story all the time. When I was a kid, my mom never grounded me. I just say my mom. I just blame it on my mom. My parents never grounded me. I wasn't strictly parented. The one thing my mom always used as a tool was leverage on my belongings. It was like taking stuff away. Because, I mean, the easiest thing for a kid is to realize, just take a step back, look at all the 3 to 5 things in his life he needs, and realize that you have. Get a job. Don't you have other things to do?
Come on.
Besides save lives?
They can wait.
Nah, go get them, Tigers. A lot of energy, a lot of focus. No, it's just like, you know as a parent that those 5 things, those 3 or 5 things your kid has, you have all the power in the world. Because your kid will choose that thing over the alternative.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want this and to listen to me, or do you not want it and not listen to me? Like, I want it. I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
And so what I realized at a young age is, well, how do I alleviate that? Because I started getting frustrated. I was like, oh, I just need to own all my things. My mom can take these things away from me because
She bought them.
she owns them.
Yeah.
They're her things that I get to borrow. And then on the contrary, I was like, well, there's another problem. I live under her roof, so she can always pull that card. And so I remember at about 16, my brother had pretty much been living at his now wife's house full time. And I was the last of kin, the last heir to the throne. And my mom, I could tell, if I ended up owning all my shit, she wouldn't threaten the roof over my head because she actually wanted me to live there as much as I did. And so, and if she did, I knew she was capped, you know? And so I just remember the first feeling of an adult is when I realized that I'm like, oh, I can afford. I was doing well. I was riding scooters professionally. I was a little grinder in high school. Grinder physically, literally. You know what I mean? Sorry about that. And so I started owning all my shit, like my insurance, and I was like, that's when I was like an adult. I was like, this is tight.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom, take this away from me, I dare you. Psych! My plan. My Verizon plan.
See, it was so funny because, like, my sister moved up before I did. And it was so funny because, like, always had, like, that parenting dynamic. And it was almost like my mom had kind of, like, had enough by the time my sister was gone. So she was parenting both of us. And then once my sister moved out, it was kind of just like, all right. Like,
Yeah.
like, you can figure the rest out. Like, I've got one's out of the nest. Like, you've seen what we've done.
Yeah.
Just try to stay okay until you move out. It's like,
How old are you?
fair. When my sister moved out?
He's like, I'm 9.
Yeah. Like, yeah. 2.
Good luck.
Yeah, 2.
Figure out how to walk.
I think I was like 15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
About the same age.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like, this is kind of, now I've got freedom. Like
Yeah.
it was weird. And then one thing my parents like always did that I really looking back on it now, I wish they didn't. And I saw what they were doing, and I never really like called it. Is my parents always helped me under the table, like with behind my back, without me like trying to be like sly about
Yeah.
it. Like they'd always kind of, because as a parent, you want your kid to succeed, and so you're gonna do
Of
absolutely
course.
anything, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's such a noble thing to do. But you know, they set me up for success in a lot of ways where I didn't realize it until afterwards,
Yeah.
and it made me work hard, but it didn't make me work as hard as I should have for the thing,
Mhm.
and so there was always like that little disconnect of like, man, like I did this by myself, but then there was like in the back of my mind it was like something's at play.
Yeah.
Like that was too easy.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and so after learning all of that and being like, man, I should have failed here, but my dad stepped in. Or I should have failed here, but my mom did this or called and made this connection work.
Yeah.
I really wish that never happened, or that it happened so it was just my parents wanted me to succeed so bad and had so many connections.
Yeah.
Because we traveled so much and we had people all over the United States. So it was like whenever I was trying to like get a lead for like when I was like starting the businesses and stuff like that, whenever there was like something there was always like, it was like I was like 17 years old before I like started playing hockey and stuff, and I was trying to do something, and there would always be like a little bit of a safety net.
Yeah.
And I really wish I didn't have that.
Did you feel like you had a safety net at the time though, or did you just realize now that you had one without knowing?
I think in the moment I was always like, man, that was easy, and so I started building like that mindset of like, wow, this is gonna be really easy.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not like it, and so I always knew there was going to be challenges, but there was always like that, like I am very, and looking back on it, I'm so grateful and so blessed, and I'm not harping on my parents whatsoever.
No.
But like, just knowing that I should have been thrown into the water a little bit more.
You should have struggled a little more.
Exactly.
You would have struggled if your parents didn't help.
Exactly.
But I think I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's measurable, but I think to some extent it might not be far off that you just realized it rather than having to experience it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes the realization is almost as powerful as experiencing it.
Mhm.
Like if you look back and you know that, then and then rather than looking back and having experienced that, would there be that much of a difference?
I don't know, and I sit down and I've meditated on that a lot. Where it's like, would my life be really any different if I really like had to just fucking grind it, like just hit the wall, because we've failed. Like you've heard my stories. Like
Yeah.
I've hit the wall many a time, and
Yeah.
nobody's dug me out. I've had to dig myself out
Yeah.
many times. But it's like maybe if I would have been dropped on my face a little harder, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have made that mistake. And if I wouldn't have made, and I don't dwell, but I meditate on it. So I'm like, if this, would this,
Yeah.
and I play it out in my head. I'm like, it would have been a little different,
Yeah.
a little bit, but like it's like, and I would have, and I definitely know that I would have taken different routes in my life
Yeah.
if I would have known these things, if I would have like changed things up originally, So it's just an interesting thing to look back on and kind of go like, like, I wonder if I was parented like this, how I would have, if I would have still turned out the way I am, because like we talked about a couple podcasts ago, like you become who you're around, and you literally, somebody posted it the other day and I was reading it. It's like the 5 groups of people in your life that truly shape your life, and it was so fascinating to break it down and read it. And it's like your parents literally put you in the groove,
Yeah.
and it's like that's why it's so important to be. I don't think there's really a term for a good parent. You have to be the best version of what that kid needs. Like
Yeah.
you have to put him or her on the path to success very early.
I agree, and I think we've talked about this before, where it's like
I'm gonna find that really quick and send it to you.
there's good parenting that breeds great children. There's good parenting that breeds shit children, and vice versa. And
I've also seen shit parenting that breeds amazing
that's
kids.
my vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's like it really comes down to how does the kid take these situations he's experienced, right? Like we said before, it's like there's probably kids who have dealt with a ton of hardship that built a mentality of I need to get out of this, or this is all wrong. This is what I'm gonna do. And there's kids that dealt with just zero adversity and just shit the bed because they're just like they were parented well.
So bad for those kids.
Yeah, but they don't have any. They don't have grit. They never dealt with struggle. They don't understand anything. They go out into the free world and it's like there's nothing brings dopamine. Nothing is enjoyable because nothing's like no tangible object is. There's just nothing for them anymore.
Yeah.
It's like you look at some wealthy people, and it's like it's just so hard to find enjoyment, and that's why people go to drugs and these things. It's like they just run out of things to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think that's like I'd say the biggest recipe for failure is giving your kid everything.
100%.
That will be like the most. I think giving if you take two groups of people, a group of people that gave their kid nothing, 0, but like to the point where this kid faced adversity in his life because his parents. It's not even that they had anything to give. Kids that had parents had everything to give and they gave it. Oh my! Like those two groups, I bet you there's so many more well-rounded children and adults that came from that group of just they came up with nothing.
Yeah, and like we talked about at the beginning, this is all opinion based. Like we're not saying that anybody, if you're
more like anecdotal,
and it's
like
like
what
yeah,
I've
and it's
experienced in my life.
And it's like if you're in one of these categories, like we're not harping on you like
No.
at all. Like if your parents gave you everything, and you're still super successful, like don't let the mass majority dictate what you think about yourself. Like if you were successful and your parents gave you everything, good on you. Like
Yeah.
I've got friends whose parents were super successful, gave them like a little bit of leverage, and they just leveraged it.
Oh, of course.
Like they used the leverage. What I have a problem with is people who their parents gave them, and I don't even have a problem. It's almost sad. It's like their parents gave them everything, and they just expect the rest of their life where okay, like I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But we both have those friends who their parents were successful, set up businesses, set up companies, and then kind of gave them a little push, and the kid got motivation from it and started his own thing, her own thing, and then just took that leverage, almost like because it's the same thing as using a bank. Like you're using somebody else's thing to make yourself into what you want to do.
And sometimes that process is just smooth. It's like you're growing up around it. All you know is money. You're given money, but you just had that mentality where you watch your parents work their ass off, so you become a hard worker. Yes, it's just like opportunity already exists, and you just have to kind of keep playing the game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything wrong with that. I just know a lot of kids, or knew a lot of kids in LA who just like it's the opposite. It's parents give them all this shit, way too much shit, and that's not even an opinion. I think we could all like jointly agree that a kid driving like a $300,000 car that he worked for a 0 is pointless.
Yes.
And the problem is what the kids do with it. It's like seeing that and then watching the kid like fuck off on his day to day at age 22. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You don't. It's not your money. It's your parents' money.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's the kids who you can tell they're not going to take over. I guess it's this. It's the kids who you can tell they realize they think they're going to take over the family business, but I don't think they actually will.
Because they don't have any skill.
They just assumed that as a backup plan, but it's like, why would they do that? And also, what if they don't?
And that's like
You've got nothing going for you.
And that's one of the things that I think is really, really neat when I meet people. Like we have a couple friends, including like one of our buddies who was over the other night.
We have friends.
We do.
I'd say
Not just us.
no.
And we're not even that close. But we have friends. I love you. We have friends that, like, our buddy that was over the other night, Ben. He grew up like his family's company is worth a shit ton now.
Yeah.
A shit ton now. He grew up working in the company on the lowest tier. Like they owned the company and they still put him in
Yeah.
the lowest of the lowest spot.
Good.
Like that is what you need to do, in my opinion. Is it's like no, like you don't just get to walk in as the COO. Like you get to clean the
For what?
bathrooms. Yeah. You get to bend metal.
Yeah.
You get to work your way up like everybody else. And then by the time you get to the point where it's like, are you ready to take over the company? You understand the company.
Yeah.
Like it's
You might actually be the most fit person to take over the company.
exactly.
That's the only thing. Like if I was an adult, I would only give my kid a company if they were the most fit person. I'm not going to run the business any different because you're a fan.
Yeah.
If I'm looking to get out of the company, I'm going to pass it down to the most fit person to run the company.
Well,
now, if that's not
yeah.
you don't get the company.
Because there's a difference between family and business.
Yeah.
Like you cannot have I think that's a big misconception when somebody says family business. The business has to stop when you go home.
Yeah.
You cannot be running a business and running a family life in the same bubble.
Yeah.
It doesn't work because then there's a disconnect, and it's the same thing with friendships and business. It doesn't work a lot of the time because you can't disconnect it.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part because that's where, family strife comes in. That's where, fallout comes in. That's where, hatred and resentment in family comes in. And then once, let's say there's a bunch of siblings and dad gives so-and-so a lot more because they're more mature and they're ready, then it's like, now there's neglect. Now there's this whole feeling of like, I'm not good enough. Now there's this whole feeling of, well, why are you better than me? And it's like you have to be able to disconnect family, business, and love and relationships and all of these things. And that's one of the reasons I don't really like getting into business with friends.
Yeah.
Is it just never really works out well. Now I'll support my friends in their businesses happily, and I will happily set my friends up for success in their business, and I will step in and I will help you put the pieces together.
Yeah.
But every single time, my intent is to come in, provide value, and then leave.
Yeah.
Or come in, provide value, and then when friendship and family comes back around, we're friendship and family.
Yeah.
There's no business anymore.
I'd say the biggest mistake I see, and I've actually done this myself, is thinking that I'm different and that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know what? I get that working with friends is a bad idea, but I think I can make it work. And now I don't think that's a completely false statement.
No.
There are people that make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's few and far between, and the majority of people that think they're special end up getting smacked in the face. And they're like, oh, turns out it's actually not a great idea.
Yeah.
And I actually know a family. I know some of the family. And the entire family owns, like, the entire city they're from. But it is a fucked up dynamic. Like, one of the brothers is, like, pretty much shut. Like, they're all in the business because they all have equity in the business. And I'm sure there's some sort of trust that owns everything. And so everyone has a share. But what happens is this animosity grows. Animosity is an understatement. And now the relationships are broken, but they still hold their place. And so it's like, I've seen families that are running worse than businesses. Like one person, the two people in the family are trying to cut the other one out of the business. It's like, there's no love even left. It's just greed.
It's money.
Greed running this business that happens to be a family predicated on money and finances. And it's like, you've lost sight of the only thing that is important in this world by something that matters zero.
Yeah.
And that is such a shame to see. Like, I feel like it is possible for someone in that situation, all of them, to at one moment sit down and go, what the fuck have we done? Like, it's not a crazy realization. It's, you just have to disconnect from the money for 1 second. Because that's all it is. You're not holding a legacy. There's no legacy if the business you're running is completely tearing the family apart.
No.
You've gotten rid of the whole legacy.
You've destroyed it.
And so I think, like, I don't know, I'm one of those people that always thinks the impossible's possible because everyone's written it off, and that's why it's not possible. They just don't think it's possible. Like, I'm the one who always comes in and is like, you guys tried this? Like, this might actually work. And everyone's like, no. For this. Like, I actually think if you guys all got your heads out of your ass for a second, you might have, like, the most important day of your year. Like, that might change the trajectory of the rest of your life.
Yep.
I mean, that's one thing with human beings that's so weird is people get their minds so set on concepts that they're just fucking up their entire life based off of a thought that can change.
Yep.
And that's why I tend to push boundaries in people. Is like, it's just one change in thought. Like, there could be someone fucking up their entire life, and it takes 5 to 10 seconds of thought, of realization, to entirely change the course of their life. And people find that thing to be absolutely out the door. It's impossible. We cannot do that. It will not happen, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, but what if it did?
Yeah, but why?
What if you spent... Like, the craziest thing is, like, someone could have this belief that runs their entire life, and it could be changed in 10 seconds. It's not like you have to put in a year of work or 10 years of work to see it through. It's all a realization. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
Just reanalyze it.
And it's just like, if you're really having problems making that change, it just takes sitting down with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think too many of us are thinking outwardly what has to change on the outward. It's like, if I want this situation to change, how do I change myself to get the outcome that I want?
And also, you can't change others.
No.
You can't change others for sure.
That's
you
what
can
I'm saying.
change yourself for sure.
Exactly.
So might as well start with yourself.
And that's what I'm saying is, like, you change yourself, watch the people around you change.
I agree. I just think that's so funny you said that, because I filmed a video on relationships recently, and that is something I believe to be one of the most valuable things I've ever learned in a relationship, is that. And in the video I was like, I said seriously, I was like, be the change that you want to be. And I was like, be the change that you want to. It sounded so fucking cringy.
Yeah.
But no, it's so true. Like, that is one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned, is you cannot make other people change, but you can 100% make yourself change.
Yeah.
You have full control of yourself, zero control of other people.
And I also think you should. I truly believe this, and I don't do it myself, which is kind of it's a double-edged sword to talk about it. But I believe like at least like once or twice a month, you need to sit down and figure out like, am I getting everything I want out of life?
Yeah.
And am I standing in the way of it? And be dead honest with yourself and be like, if I needed this, who do I need to become to do this?
Yeah.
And it's like you have to have that realization and be okay in dropping your ego and saying it's okay to change. It's okay to be somebody different.
Yeah.
But in order to be the best version of myself, I need to be this person. I'm changing now.
I agree.
You know, and I don't think enough of us do that.
I'd say just write down all of your shortcomings.
Just write down, yeah.
Just figure out once a month, what are the things I'm not doing right?
Yeah.
How can I change that?
Are the things that aren't coming into my life that I'm pursuing.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I the one standing in the way?
100%. I think you should have all the problems in your life too, in your relationships. If this relationship's going wrong, before I let it go wrong, let me realize that whether or not I might be a part of the problem or the entire problem.
And here's the thing is the majority of the time, I would say 99.99% of the time when you have that thought, you are part of the problem. It is, and I don't care who argues with it, no matter what it is always your fault in some way, shape, or form.
You were always...
Because you're in control.
I don't know. I always wonder that. Like, you look at, like, relationships, right? Like, I think cheating's a good example for this. It's a very double-sided concept. Because I've been hypocritical in the sense that I have said that it's like, don't blame yourself for this, but at the same time, I'm sure you played some part in why that person did that, but at the same time, I'm sure there's scenarios where you didn't at all. But there's things out of your control.
I know, but there's things that are out of your control, but I just believe that you always have some kind of control in a situation. You always do.
Oh yeah, I agree.
You didn't ask the right question. You didn't, you weren't observant enough. You weren't, putting in the right amount of time into something. You weren't, constantly checking in and running data. You weren't like, it's one of those things that there's always something you could have done. And I'm not saying beat the fuck out of yourself.
Yeah, that's a bad concept too.
No,
there's always something you could have done in any situation ever, and sitting on that is absolutely pointless.
Exactly, but understanding that, like, if you're not in a place where you want to be right now, that's on you.
Oh yeah.
Like
100%.
that's if you're sitting there and you're miserable, that's on you. Like if you're homeless, I'm sorry, that's on you. Like
100%.
There's
I agree.
all these things. Like if you're
and if it's not on you, it's on you to change it.
Exactly. And if you're like going into like the cheating thing, because I mean I was cheated on, and like like relationships and all of that stuff. I'm responsible for getting over this.
100%.
It's my choice to sit and dwell in it and hate my life over it,
Yeah.
or move on and find. And I'm not saying move on and just dig out. Like okay, I'm good. But it's your responsibility to find your own way out.
Yeah,
Like,
no, 100%.
You have to.
That's undeniable.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even looking at the past. You're just dealing with the present.
Yeah.
And it's, do I sit in it and blame myself or blah 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 blah? No, you just figure out your way out of it. I think that's just different. I just think the looking back in the past thing and you having a part in everything. I mean, you have a part in everything that ever happens anyway. It's just, is there a point to dwell on that? Maybe not so much. I think, you know what I think it is? Actually better to dwell on the present. If something's going wrong in the present, that's when you should analyze yourself and see if you have some sort of part.
That's where you should live.
Yeah.
Because if you take care of the present, it's going to take care of the future.
Yeah.
You can basically just set yourself up for the success by taking care of right now.
I agree.
Like, just live in the present. I'm cold.
I know, I was going to say more things, and then I was like, wait, that means I have to stay out here longer? Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to do
like,
that.
Like, the sun came up and then went behind the tree.
I'm freezing.
And it just got dark.
I think it's gotten colder since this morning.
I think so.
Like, it was 52 degrees when we were driving to the store.
Yeah.
It's 46.
It went down.
It's so cold. I'm done.
Yeah.
Love you guys. This shit
have a great
sucks.
day. Thank you.